There are certain things that I think we have to straighten out. There are certain issues that I think I have to address every day. I've said these things before, and I will continue to say them every day of my life. The first thing that I want you to understand about me is that Apostle Talent Farai Chiwenga was not ordained by a religious institution. I am not a product of a Bible college or a seminary. Neither am I a spiritual son to a certain spiritual father. The message that I preach is not something that I was educated about by a mentor or a tutor or a lecturer. I was not a preacher the day I was born. I lived the sinful life that is just like any other sinner who is living out there in the world. But there was a turning point in my life. The Lord appeared to me and He gave me orientation of the word that He wanted me to go and preach. And then after getting orientation of what is the gospel and what is the true gospel, I went out to preach. My testimony resonates, my assignment resonates, and my commission is similar in nature with the assignment that Apostle Paul received from the Lord. And in that regard, I shall read Galatians chapter number 1, verse number 13 to verse number 16. And then we are going to come back to Galatians chapter 1, verse number 6 to verse number 12. At another point before we answer the questions that I'm sure you are going to raise with me here. Yes.
For you have heard of my conversation in time past in the Jews' religion, how that beyond measure I persecuted the church of God and wasted it, and profited in the Jews' religion above many my equals in mine own nation, being more exceedingly zealous of the traditions of my fathers. But when it pleased God, who separated me from my mother's womb, and called me by His grace, to reveal His Son in me, that I might preach Him among the heathen, immediately I conferred not with flesh and blood.
Thank you. In verse 15, he says, when it pleased God, who separated me from my mother's womb and called me by His grace. I love this scripture because it doesn't say, when it pleased the minister of religion in my nation. He did not say, when it pleased other preachers who were preaching before me. He didn't say, when it pleased the dean of religious studies in the faculty of religious studies at the University of Jerusalem. He said, when it pleased God, who separated me from my mother's womb and called me by His grace. The calling that Apostle Paul received was based on the grace of God and the pleasure of God. What pleased God and why did God call you by His grace? In verse 16 he says, what pleased God to call me by His grace was so that He would reveal His Son in me, that I might preach Him among the heathen. What God was pleased with Paul to do, He wanted to reveal Jesus in Paul, so that Paul could preach Jesus among the Gentiles. And as he concluded his testimony, he said, immediately I did not consult flesh and blood. The word conferred not there. It means consulted. He did not seek validation from religious entities, religious organizations, and religious institutions that were operational before he received the calling. He did not consult the Pope of the Roman Catholic Church. Neither did he consult the archbishops and the reverends that were existing in his day. He went to preach straight away. And that is what I did, and that's what I'm doing. It would be a great mistake for those who will be listening to me to think that after receiving an assignment from Jesus, the King of Kings, the one who laid down his life on the cross, the one who died for our sins, and the one who rose from the dead by the effectual power of the Most High God, it would be a serious mistake for anybody to think that after receiving a commission from Jesus, I would want to consult flesh and blood. It would be a mistake for people to think that I am going to listen to their opinions concerning whether what I'm doing is true or false, or whether what I'm doing is right or wrong. I am one preacher who has been more open than any preacher you know in this country. And I'm not trying to blow my own horn. I'm simply stating a matter of fact. There's never been a preacher in this country who has gone into the streets and asked the people to come up with any questions regarding faith, the doctrine, and the practice of the church without, first of all, having prior arrangements with those that were going to ask questions to make sure that they don't ask questions that are beyond their capacity to respond to them. There's never been a preacher in this country who stood up in the streets to say, come, let us sit down and have a council among ministers to verify what is and what is not the true gospel, who is and who is not a true preacher. I am the only one who have done that. I'm a very open-minded preacher, and I've not closed my doors to anybody. I do not resist criticism. I do not shun criticism. I do not get offended at criticism. If it is a criticism that is genuinely based on establishing what is the true position of God regarding his gospel, I've embraced it with both my hands, and I've responded to every question that was raised to me. And make no mistake about it, I have not done it so as to seek validation from men that I'm a true preacher. The Bible warns me that the moment non-believers would begin to accept me as a true preacher, I would have relegated myself to the peripheries of the assignment to which I was called some 7 years ago. I am a preacher of the gospel of Jesus Christ. And Jesus Christ is the only one who has the ability to validate me. The authenticity, the legitimacy, and the genuineness of my assignment, my message, and in particular my testimony concerning Jesus, is not based on how many people agree, how many people are convinced, how many people are following me or subscribing to my messages. It depends on two things: the position of Christ and the position of Scripture. a debate on a radio station about the truthfulness, the genuineness, or otherwise of Apostle Chiwenga's message is not something that concerns me or that worries me. If there's going to be a debate on Star FM about whether Apostle Chiwenga is a true man of God, why does he attack other ministers? Is he a true preacher, or he has got a personal vendetta against other ministers? Such a debate is not worthy of our emotional engagement with them or against them. Public broadcasting institutions have better issues to be addressing, better subjects to be notifying or educating our populations about. If we had proper media houses that are not captured by the politicians of the state, if we didn't have media houses and journalism institutions that are bootlickers to the political systems of our country, we could be hearing the radio station criticizing the government for their unpreparedness to deal with effects of the COVID-19. We could be hearing the radio stations and the TV stations criticizing President Mnangagwa's government for the foolish and brutal abuse of the 3 MDC female political activists on the basis of their tyrannical rule in this country. They don't have time to talk about matters that affect the people of Zimbabwe, which they have a responsibility to address. Media houses do not have the power to address spiritual matters because they are not only in nature but also in function extremely unspiritual. KVG and Patisani and RK and other radio presenters have nothing to do about the gospel. They have no knowledge about the gospel. If they were in their right minds, they would never defile their lives before God to attempt to become commentators of spiritual matters which they don't have a clue about. If you believe that you have something to say about the gospel, why don't you call me? Tidedzeika, titaure zvevhangeri. Kana mazondidedza maisa magaya apa naguta. Tobva tavhurirana magwaro, toonesana kuti ane chaMwari ndeupi. Handigone kutaura zvaMwari nemapresenters as any radio station kana kuti Star FM. Because havana chaMwari chavanoziva. If we are going to address spiritual matters, make no mistake about it, they have to be addressed by the right people. Have you been given a mandate by God to minister the word of life in the world? Makatumwa ere kuparidza shoko raMwari vanhu veStar FM. Ndo zvamakatangira radio station. Kana muri vafundisi katidedze isu vakatumwa tikuratidzei kuti muri kurasika pano. Motiudza kuti makatumwa kutuparidza chii, isu tokuudzai kuti takatumwa kuparidza chakati. Todairana. Now I'm saying this, maybe people are not aware of what is happening. We have contacted the Star FM and we are hoping that they are going to respond to us. If we find ourselves not having been responded to in a proper way, we are going to take a legal action against them. Because we find that what they are doing is either they are representing an aggrieved religious institution that is afraid to engage us face to face. And so they are paying unscrupulous radio presenters to attack Jesus Revelation Ministries and Apostle Chiwenga. Or they are being used by the politicians who have also, because of their cowardice, refused to engage us, because we have raised genuine issues which they are incompetently addressing in this country. That's why they are attacking Apostle Chiwenga on a radio station, something that has never happened in this country. If Apostle Chiwenga has said something that Zayoja or Makandiwa's church does not agree with, why is Star FM becoming the mouthpiece of other church institutions? Why should the Star FM radio station begin to advocate, begin to stand up to fight Apostle Chiwenga on behalf of other churches? Murukubhadarwa ka vanapatisani nemachechi kuti murwisa Apostle Chiwenga. If Apostle Chiwenga says Magaya is lost, Makandiwa is lost, is a false preacher, Guti is a false preacher, is it your duty to take up an aggressive position against Apostle Chiwenga in his absence? What kind of professional journalism is that? Is it allowed by the Broadcasting Authority of Zimbabwe? Zvinotenderwa here kuti munoadresa a minister of the gospel in matters that you have no clue about in his absence, without seeking his comments, without engaging him? I once had a radio program at Star FM. Initially, we were joining RRK in his Faith on Trial radio program. And when we saw that it was not a platform that was beneficial to our assignment, that of preaching the gospel of the kingdom, because Faith on Trial is a religious program. We do not push a religious agenda. We push a kingdom agenda. So we pulled out from Faith on Trial. We did another program which we paid for ourselves, which was called Revelation Hour. And when we pulled out of the Revelation Hour, it was also because of the aggressiveness of the Star FM management system. They put Masango an hour before we came in, and they put Magaya an hour after we came in. Magaya was doing his program another day. When we did our program in our own day, they all came to bring their own programs at the same time with our program, so that they could then start to fight us in our absence. We have called these guys, come and let's discuss. If you want us to do a radio program, bring Magaya, bring Masango, and we will show you that these are not servants that God has sent to preach the true gospel. Right now, where are they? They all said, we are preaching, we have power to heal. Masango was advertising his so-called powers. Come to Mazibaba Masango, he is able to heal all kinds of diseases and solve all kinds of problems. Where is Masango today? I don't hear Masango's advertisements on Star FM today. He has suspended the adverts because they are now irrelevant. Because there is a disease that needs the same anointing to address it. My guy is quiet right now. He can't sell his stupid oil again. Because COVID is a litmus test for every necromancer, every diviner, every sorcerer, every fortune teller, every spiritist, every soothsayer. Azvisi kushanda zvekunzi uyai kusafe house, uyai kulife haven, zvakadhakwa. But vanapatisana havasi kutaura izvozvo kuti zvakadhakwa zveLife Haven. They are fighting Chiwenga because they are getting money from these fraudsters, these spiritual fraudsters. They are fighting me. If I had thought about this earlier on, I could have showed you this. I don't know. Are you able to put it on so that the viewers can see it? Yes, this is what they are doing. Does Apostle Chiwenga carry the message of God, or he has a vendetta against other men of God? Message or vendetta? This is what the Star FM has been doing. They are fighting Apostle Chiwenga in his absence. Those who kuitwa neStar FM izvi. Havasi kukwanisa kutaura kuti amunangagwa vakaprinta billboard rakanzi vote for me, I'm going to protect the girl child. And the deception in what Vamunangagwa did, he is not protecting the girl child. He is sexually abusing the girl child. Gonyeti was abused. Gonyeti was abducted. Gonyeti was beaten up by cowardly state security agents. Mary Chiwenga was abused. The former wife for Vice President Kembo Mohadi was abused. A vice president yielded an ex against his own wife. The Star FM never talked about it. I think these are matters that the radio station should be talking about. Those are your area, Vanapatisan. If we had professional media houses in Zimbabwe, we shouldn't be having these two vice presidents that we are having today, or simply on the basis that they abuse their own wives. Vice President akabata dema akapaza door achida kutema mukadzi wake nedemo. Patisana hana kukwanisa kuzvitaura izvozvo. Why? Because like every other person who works for this bogus illegal government, they are bootlickers. They feed on court jesting. It is written, does Apostle Chiwenga carry the message of God, or he has a vendetta against other men of God? And I don't know this picture of the guy who is on this Star FM page on Facebook. Who is this guy? Handizive kuti ndipatisani here kana kuti ndiani. Message or vendetta. So we were saying this is something that is very unprofessional for the Star FM to be doing. It is unprofessional in two counts. The first thing is they should not be discussing about us as if we are not around, or we have not responded positively to their invitation to address these issues. The issues that are to do with the faith and God are not part of the work of a radio station, because whatever they have learned and whatever their scope of business is at Star FM, they don't have a clue about the things that are to do with God. They do not know the true gospel because they are not ministers of the gospel. It is unprofessional for them to fight us like this using their radio station, their airtime, talking about us without consulting us, without engaging us, without inviting us, so that if there can be issues they can get responses from us. What we say on the pulpit is subject to interpretation. Before one can say Apostle Chiwenga said this, they need to confirm if their interpretation of what we have said tallies with what we meant when we said whatever we said during our ministrations. The Star FM invites a madman. They invite somebody who is basically supposed to be in a mental institution, Talent Madungwe, who says something that a grade 7 pupil at a primary school should not believe. They give him airtime to speak rubbish, nonsense, and profanities against our God. They invite Madungwe, but they can't invite Apostle Chiwenga. And if you look at this message, you can actually see that the Star FM people are not representing themselves. Like I was saying before we got a network interruption, they are being sponsored either by religious institutions or they are being used like mobs as they are always used by politicians who are trying to stop our ministry because we stand up for the truth and we have not bowed down to lick their feet like other churches are doing. This is not a simply radio program that the Star FM are doing for the sake of public interest. They cannot say we are doing this for public interest because matters that are to do with God, they have got authorities that stand to address them. They can't talk about godly issues, the Star FM people, because they are not representing God. For those who do not know, Star FM is owned by, what is it called? This company that runs Herald and H Metro. Zim Papers Group, yes. And everybody in this country knows that Herald and the Zim Papers Group, they are the mistress of ZANU-PF. Apana singazvizive izvozvo. That's why they have time to spend on they have airtime to talk about Apostle Chiwenga. But we have got a very urgent issue, a very pertinent issue, a very sensitive issue right now that if they were in an apolitical radio station, they should be condemning the abduction of these 3 MDC female political activists who were brutalized by state security agents, who were taken away from police custody illegally by political actors. They don't talk about it because they can't criticize their paymaster. They can't challenge the hand that feeds them and their children and their families. It's very unprofessional for you, Star FM, to be doing this. But I have a warning for you. Tineyambiro kwa muri wanapatisani, nana KVG, nana RK. And my warning is two-sided. The first side of my warning is that there is going to be a time when the institutions that make you untouchable are not going to be there anymore. You are going to have the people of Zimbabwe to answer to. And you are putting your careers at risk. Because when such a time comes, this country is going to only require people that have demonstrated a genuine interest for the well-being and the safety of the ordinary Zimbabweans. And your conduct does not show that you have such an interest. The second aspect of my warning is that in as much as you think that you are fighting Apostle Chiwenga for how much, I don't know, how much are you getting from those religious persons that are finding sleepless nights because I'm exposing them every day for the fraudsters that they are. I want to warn you that there is never a man under the sun who ever tried to stop God and his mission and was successful. You cannot stop the movement of God. I have survived more than 7 assassination attempts up to this day. And it is not because I'm very clever or I am very skillful. No, it is because I stand for the work of Christ. And we are not going to stop exposing false preachers. No, we are not going to stop. We are going to continue to do so until we die. And at the end of this life, you and I, we are going to stand before the mighty hand of God. And those politicians that you are hiding behind as squirrels and puppies, they are also going to answer to the God that I stand to represent today until the day that I die. Those religious persons that are giving you money so that you can try and silence the voice of Apostle Chiwenga through criticizing him unprofessionally, aggressively, and misrepresenting us in our absence. You and I, we are going to stand before the judgment seat of Christ when everything else is said and done. And on that day, you are going to see that no amount of money is worth standing on the wrong side of the right hand of God. Ichikai zvenyu mari dziri kubirwa vanhu kumachechi uku muchipiwa imimi kuti muende kuno advertise nhema dzamunonyatsoziva kuti dzii nhema. Idyai mari idzodzo dzamunopiwa naana Magaya, naana Makandiwa, naana Masango, naana Fred, muchinyepera nyika kuti varume havane simba ramunoziva kuti havana. Ini ndo vanhu vandiri kufumura ivavo kuti havana kutumwa naMwari, ndosaka muri kundirwisa ndisipo. Idyai zvenyu mari idzodzo, asi dzimwe dzichafuta dzamatumbu menyu. Rimwe zuva Mwari uyu wandinoparidzawo anoita kunge asina simba kana akanyarara, achingopupura nemiromo yevaranda vake sezvandinoita izvi. Asi rimwe zuva musati mabva panyika ine, you are going to sense, you are going to feel the wrath of God. Do not play with the sacrifice that Jesus made on Calvary. He shed his blood. He laid down his life for the salvation of sinners. And these people that are exposed every day, they are making merchandise out of the Calvary transaction. What Jesus died to give for free is what Magaya is charging people for. What Jesus died to give for free is what Makandiwa is charging people for. What Jesus died to give for free is what Masango, Freddy, and other spiritual fraudsters are charging people for. And this is what God has sent me to expose. And this is why you are fighting me. It's a warning. Let us live and see who is really standing for the true God. It's very unprofessional. I asked Pastor Marange to call the Star FM radio station to tell them that what they are doing is unprofessional. And if they do not amend their ways, we are going to challenge them in a court of law. We know also that the courts are also captured. We are going to do it for the record anyway. But this is what I wanted to say. I want you to be warned. Kavatidedze kana vaine chekubvunza pamusoro pevhangeri yedu. Kana vachida kudedza mumwe wevafundisi vatinoti vakarasika, ngavamudeedze tigopinda pamhepo tigofumurana tigoona kuti ane chokwadi ndiani. Deedzai makandiwa vana KVG, deedzai magaya agara apa. Mugondibvunza kuti ko iwe Chiwenga unoti magaya akarasika, uyu ari papa. Fumura tinzwe kurasika kwamagaya, tovhura magwaro tochiti vamagaya iri bhaibheri chivhurai enyu. Mutiudze kuti nhamo dzakazopinda mubhegi sei, dzakapinda nevhesani nhamo dzevanhu dzikapinda mubhegi. Saka unofunga kuti vanoparidza nhema vakawanda vanenge vakuparidza chokwadi. Now, this is what I wanted to say. Galatians chapter 1, verses 6 to 12. Before we answer the questions.
I marvel that you are so soon removed from him that called you into the grace of Christ.
Wait, Pastor Erengu. So you see, I was saying before we got a network interruption, that radio stations and journalists and media houses, they must be addressing issues that are of public interest, matters that are important, which we don't hear them publicizing or bringing out to the public attention. I was talking about the abduction of the 3 MDC activists. These Star FM presenters, they've never talked about them. They have not condemned them because those are ruthless acts of a barbaric government, a tyrannical government. If those ladies were violating the law because they were demonstrating during a lockdown, so does the law say they should be beaten up? Does the law say they have to be sexually abused? Does the law say that they should make them to drink their urine, like what they said? Hatina here mutemo muno unotonga vanhu vanenge vapara mhosva. Makadii kuvaendesa kukoti. Kwayo lockdown yacho inongoshanda kuvanhu veMDC chete. Musi uno pakaitwa parliamentary, the parliament was sitting and it sat down to consider a letter that was written by Douglas Monzora to call back some of the MDC MPs. I'm not a politician, but I am saying, does this lockdown only applies to those that are against the government? Does it? An MDC MP was arrested while giving out food handouts, something that the central government was supposed to be doing. It is the responsibility of the government to take care of the welfare issues of its citizens. A member of parliament is a public government official. He has a right to go to his constituents and find out if his constituents, members and citizens are okay. He was arrested. He was giving maize meal. And these girls are arrested because they participated in an unlawful demonstration. If they were taken to court, that was going to be fine. Let them face the justice system of our country. The Star FM are not talking about that. They don't have time to do so. They can't dare go against their paymaster. They can't. So I was saying, when President Mnangagwa was campaigning, he put on a billboard. I don't know if the media team can put up that billboard on the screen, which was written, if you vote for me, I'm going to protect the girl child. I'm not makaiona here. Billboard iroro indakarona kakawanda. I actually parked my car one day and I spent some 5 minutes looking at it. It was around at the roundabout along Blawai Road when you turn left to go into Warren Park D. That's where the billboard was. ED stands for the protection of the girl child. That is false. That is not true. That was a lie. Girl child is in danger in Zimbabwe. The girl child is prey for our politicians in Zimbabwe. that journalist and the comic lady Gonyeti was molested, sexually abused, brutally assaulted, simply because she was doing a job. She is a journalist. She has a responsibility to the people of Zimbabwe to awaken them to the realities of the social ills affecting them in their day-to-day lives. And what happened next? Vice President Kembo Mahadi yielded an ex against his former wife. The court said she should have certain assets in the dissolution of their marriage. So he was not happy with what the court said. He took police officers to go to his wife's house, and he broke into his wife's house with an axe. A vice president wielded an axe against his former wife. And Mary Chiwenga was harassed some few months ago. Is this not the girl child that our president said he was going to protect? And where is Partisani and KVG in these matters? Are these not the matters that the journalists and the media houses should be talking about? Are they not supposed to be bringing out relevant issues in the day-to-day lives of our people? They can't talk against the brutality of the state because this Zim Papers group as a company is the mistress of ZANU-PF. I don't read the Herald newspaper because there's rubbish. They write rubbish. They write everything that they write so that they can manipulate the minds of our population. It's always political propaganda and political rhetoric. They don't represent the interest of the people of Zimbabwe. And so does the H Metro, and so does the Chronicles, the Sunday Mail. And this Star FM radio station, it is also an asset of the Zim Papers group. That's why all they do these things, they do it for one purpose: to lie to the people of Zimbabwe so that they remain in perpetual relegation in the affairs of their country. Zimbabwe appears to be a private company that is owned by ZANU-PF. It is the duty of the radio stations, the media houses, the newspapers, the journalists, the comedians, the musical artists to bring out the issues that are affecting the people of Zimbabwe. The musicians have a right. During the war, we had musicians who sang songs against the colonial regime of Ian Smith. And right now, musicians are also brutally assaulted for singing songs that challenge the status quo. Instead of bringing out these issues, Star FM is now on a spree. They are now on a rampage. They have found an enemy. They are shifting away the attention of the people of Zimbabwe from matters that are important. They are now attacking Apostle Chiwenga, probably because they are being paid by religious individuals, whom I am exposing every day in my messages. Or they are doing it for the politician who almost killed me some 12 months ago. And we have never talked about it. It's not because we don't know what happened. We know that that accident was not natural. They tried to kill me, and we have got an investigation that we are concluding very soon. And we are going to come back to you with some of the facts that we have managed to gather so far of how the ZANU-PF government tried to kill me on the 12th of June in 2019. We are aware of that. And they didn't talk about it. The Star FM people, they didn't talk about it. They never made it an issue. Have you ever seen somebody who dies in an accident, and when the relatives of that somebody go to collect the body for the deceased, they find out that the hospital has washed the clothes of the person who has died during an accident? Makambozvinzwa kupi kuti kana munhu akafa muaccident chipatara chinogeza hembe dzemunhu ari kunzi afa neaccident? Ndozvavakaita to one of ours. Our people went to collect a body and the hospital washed those clothes. Why were they washing them? They were hiding what they had done against us. And the brutality continues to go on until this day. And we are going to address this issue some other day. This was not the issue. I am only saying there are matters that are more important than that these unprofessional media houses could be addressing. Are you representing God, Star FM? Matumwa na Mwari here kubvunza mvunzo wekuti, does Apostle Chiwenga have a personal vendetta against other preachers, or he has a genuine intention to preach the gospel? How can I have a personal vendetta against every preacher? Have I ever met them? Why don't you invite me? Why don't you call me so that we can address those issues? Why don't you ask me those questions? Muri kubvunza vanhu veZimbabwe vakaroiwa namagaya kuti Apostle Chiwenga munovaona sei? Vanoziva chii vanhu vemunomu nekudzungaira kwavakaitawo? Munofunga kuti dai vanhu vemunomu vasina kudzungaira vachitengeserwa jecha namagaya? We are awakening our people so that they can come out from this stupidity. We are detoxifying them. We are bringing the gospel, which is an antidote to the venom of the devil. Our people are not thinking straight. Our people have been bewitched by these false preachers for a long time. How can a normal person in his right mind believe that they can carry somebody's problems to Israel and come back with solutions? How do you expect people to know who is the true minister and who is not the true minister? When people believe that this charlatan who calls himself Prophet Freddy can give them spiritual spectacles. And after some few months, he appears on public media weeping that the council has destroyed his structure. Where were your spiritual spectacles? Ma spiritual spectacles anga ari kupi? Unogona kupa vanhu maziso emweya kuti vaone kuti murume wangu ari kundichita kana kuti mukadzi wangu ari kundichita. Iwe uri kuchitwa nekanzuro, hauzvioni? Saka maziso acho anongoshanda kana uchipa vamwe iwo hauna. I saw Fred weeping on social media and I said, is this not the one who is dishing out spiritual spectacles? And do you know what he was saying, Pastor Eregu? He was saying, the council should have told me that they wanted to destroy my church building. And I said in my mind, the council could not tell you since you have spiritual spectacles. The council thought that as a spiritual person, you are going to see that they are coming. This is nonsense. This is stupidity. This is foolishness. And I have been sent to expose these false preachers for who they are. And I'm not going to stop. It doesn't matter how much money the presenters of the Star FM radio station are going to be paid by these false preachers. We are not going to stop. And we are very happy that we have had so many people coming away from these shrines. Vanhu vari kubuda kumashrine kuvanzwa chokwadi. Ende tiri kutenda Mwari kuti tiri kuroyonera vanhu. Obviously panoroyonerwa vamwe pane vamwe vanosara ikoko. Nekuti ivo neuroyi hwacho vanenge vaanyama imwe. Ragara denga harisi kupinza vanhu vese mufunga. Hatina problem nazvo. Hatina chinangwa chekuti munhu wese anotenda nhema abude. Chese akati denga harisi kupindwa nemunhu wese. But vacho vakanyorwa mubhuku reupenyu ivavo ndo vatiri kutora ivavo nechokwadi. Kana ndikaita 1 ndiri kuparidza chokwadi nyika yese yechinyepa, ndicharamba chikoparidza ndiri 1. Musafunga kuti ndichazonyara kuti vanhu vachazonditi zvino wega here ndiwo uri kuparidza chokwadi, vamwe vese vakaita sei. That doesn't matter. Nhunzi kana dzikawanda sei hakuna munhu angadye sadza nenhunzi nekuti dzawanda. Ungatodya sadza neshwa 5 uchitadze kurumirira. Nhunzi dzikawanda sei hadzitange kudyika nekuti dzawanda. munhu anorara sadzi anorarira tii ashaya muriwo asimba makazara mapete wana anodii kuti zvino mapete zvaawanda tadii kungowadya munhu anorarira tii nechingwa achiti ndashayiwa muriwo asimba makazara mapete nemakonzo kuziva kuti kunyange mapete akawanda sei adyiwe. Anyone anofunga kuti angawane chokwadi chekunamata kuna Patisani na KVG is also a fool in their own right. Dai Mwari aida kuti radio station aparidze dai asina kumbotuma Jesu matown criers anga ariko kudhara ariko kunana Daniel 3 radio stations anga ariko nguva iyoyo. They were radio stations in their own fashion. Aiveko. Star FM was not sent by God to preach the gospel. They should not address gospel issues. They have nothing that they know about the gospel. Why is it that when they want to discuss politics, they invite politicians? When they want to discuss legal issues, they invite lawyers. But right now, they are not inviting the preacher to address gospel issues. Is that right? Is that fair? Is that just? Is that professional? It is not professional. So I thought I wanted to warn them. I warned this woman, Tilda Moyo, some few years ago. And I said, she's being paid by these fools. Vana Masango, Teopu Mumwefutuwa, Nana Fred. There's another prophet, a false prophet in Chitungwiza there, where she was being invited. And what Tilda Moyo was doing, she was being used by these false prophets to validate them that what they are doing is true. And what she was doing, she was saying, zvandaona zvakaoma, ndaona munhu waMwari achita minana nezviratidzo, vanoda zvavo kubatsirwa huyai. But Tilda Moyo mazuva ano akanyarara. Hatisati tambomunzwa achiti Masango ari kurapa COVID. Vakabvumirana vega kuti mafanizi ese atanga tichita ngatimbosiyai iyi COVID inourayai. Tsvagai sanitizer Tilda Moyo. Tsvagai mask, mugare mumba. Zvekunyepera vanhu hazvichande. Mubvunzo wangu kuna Tilda Moyo izvezvi, ko Masango ari kupi? Ko Fred aripi? Iwe ndiwo waiti vanhu havanoporesa. Tovatsvagira here visa vaende kuAmerica kuri kuvhiwa. Masango unoita choto kana zambara rake ikoko. Oporesa kama Americans. Nekuda kwokuti vari kurwara neCovid. Inhema dzese idzi. What I'm saying is Star FM muri kushandiswa sejoki nemapoliticians. Moshandiswa futi sejoki nemachechi ekunyepa muchinyepera vanhu veZimbabwe kuti uyu munhu waMwari uyu asi munhu waMwari. I don't seek validation from you. Whether you call me a true man of God, I will not listen to that. Whether you call me a false man of God, that will not change who I am before God. Number one, I was sent by God. You are never going to define my assignment. Number two, you have no clue about matters to do with the gospel. Stick to your business. You are an entertainment institution. Your duty is to inform Zimbabweans about other matters. We have never gone to Star FM tichiti kwavari taurirai vanhu kuti Chiwenga anoparidza the true gospel. We don't have to be validated by a radio station which knows nothing about Jesus. Now, concerning validation, before we read Galatians chapter 1, verse 6 to 12, let's read another scripture. 2 Corinthians chapter 3, verse 1 and 2.
Do we begin again to commend ourselves, or need we, as some others, epistles of commendation to you, or letters of commendation from you? You are our epistle written in our hearts, known and read of all men. For as much as you are manifestly declared to be the epistle of Christ, ministered by us, written not with ink, but with the Spirit of the living God, not in tables of stone, but in flesh tables of the heart.
I wanted you to read up to verse number 2. Read again verse number 1.
Do we begin again to commend ourselves, Or need we, as some others, epistles of commendation to you, or letters of commendation from you? You are our epistle, written in our hearts, known and read of all men.
Do we need recommendation from you? Do we need letters to commend me that I'm a true preacher? Who are you in matters to do with the gospel? So he says, do we begin again to commend ourselves, or need we, as some others, letters of commendation to you, or letters of commendation from you? 2 Corinthians chapter 10, verse 12.
For we dare not make ourselves of the number, or compare ourselves with some that commend themselves, but they measuring themselves by themselves, and comparing themselves among themselves, are not wise.
For we dare not make ourselves of the number. The word number there is simply saying, I don't compare myself with the other preachers. We are not going to compare ourselves with some that commend themselves, but they measuring themselves by themselves and comparing themselves among themselves are not wise. Munhu akavakiswa chiatari namakandiwa ndiye ari kubvunzwa kuti Chiwenga munhu waMwari here? Anoziva chii nezvaMwari? Anoziva chii nezvaMwari? So we are going to finally read Galatians chapter 1, verse 6 to 12.
I marvel that you are so soon removed from him that called you into the grace of Christ unto another gospel.
So in verse number 6, Apostle Paul was writing a letter to the church. I must emphasize this. This was a letter that was not going to unbelievers. It was a letter that was being sent to the church, to the believers. So the believers had believed the true gospel, but there came Jews which started to pervert the true gospel that Paul had preached to them, asking them to be circumcised as a manner of validation of their salvation. And Paul was not happy about it. That's why he wrote the letter to Galatia. Tsamba yakanyorwa kuvaGalatia yakanga iri yekutsiura, yakanga iri yekufumura, yakanga iri yekurasa nhema dzakanga dzagamuchirwa nevatsvene vakanga vari paGalatia. Saka ari kuti ndinoshamiswa kuti makurumidza kushandukira uyo akakudanai kunyasha dzaKristu muchiteerera imwe vhangeri. Verse 7.
Which is not another.
Yes.
But there be some that trouble you, and would pervert the gospel of Christ. But though we, or an angel from heaven, preach any other gospel unto you, than that which we have preached unto you, let him be accursed.
Yes.
As we said before, so say I now, if any man preach any other
Read again,
gospel,
verse 9.
as we said before, so say I now again.
Yes.
If any man preach any other gospel
If any man preach any other gospel
unto you than that you have received, let him be accursed.
doesn't matter how many there are going to be. If we find anybody preaching any other gospel than the gospel that we are preaching here, which is a gospel that is based on scripture, let that person be accursed. Yes.
For do I now persuade men,
Do I seek to persuade men, you Star FM people,
O God?
or I seek to persuade God?
Or do I seek to please men?
As I preach this message, do you think I'm trying to please men?
For if I had pleased men,
If I wanted to please men,
I should not be the servant of Christ.
that would be the moment I would stop being a servant of Christ. So a servant of Christ does not please men. A servant of Christ pleases the one who called him, as it says it in 2 Timothy 2, verse number 3 to 5. We seek to please God. Read verse number 11 to 12.
But I certify you, brethren,
I certify you people,
that the gospel which was preached of me is not after men.
I have not received this message from any human being.
For I neither received it of men, neither was I taught it, but by the revelation of Jesus Christ.
Yes, I was not taught this message by any man. I didn't receive it from any man. I received it by the revelation of Jesus Christ. If the Star FM people had a genuine issue, a genuine concern over what is the true position of the gospel regarding these variations we are finding today, they are now pitting Apostle Chiwenga against every preacher. And I like that, because what they've managed to achieve is to show that Apostle Chiwenga is in another class of preachers. He doesn't fit in the class where these all preachers belong to. And I like that. And thank you, by the way, Star FM, for doing that. When you said, does Apostle Chiwenga has a personal vendetta against all other preachers, you managed to do one good thing. You showed the people of Zimbabwe that Apostle Chiwenga is different from all other preachers. And that is true. I am different. But what is wrong in your conduct is that while you are saying, Chiwenga is saying Magaya is lost, Makandiwa is lost, Guti is lost, Mutendi is lost, you are not telling the people of Zimbabwe on what basis is Chiwenga saying these guys are lost.
Oh, yes.
By so doing, you are not objective. You are pushing somebody's personal agenda. And I'm sure that from the person who is presenting over this matter to the manager at Star FM, everybody is being paid there. What is his name? The guy anu manager my operations at Star FM. I came into the studio remembering his name. I can't remember it now. Vari kubhadharwa vese because hakuna chinhu chinoiswa mustudio chisina kuapprovwa neleadership nemanagement yeradio station. Vanhu vese ivava vari kubhadharwa kuti Rwisai Chiwenga ari kutitorera vanhu. Rwisai Chiwenga mari dzaakushota. Vamwe vakatanga kuvaka dzimba 10 years ago dzanonoka kupera. Mari hapasisina. Chiwenga ari kutaura kuti musape vanhu ava mari imbavha, musabvise chegumi. Vanhu vakagumbuka. Saka vakuburitsa mari manje kuti discredit Chiwenga pa radio station. I find what Star FM is doing not only pathetic and disgraceful, I find it also wildly inappropriate. It's a sign that our institutions are not only unprofessional, but they are easily abusable. Anybody with any small money can abuse an institution which was supposed to be an institution for public interest, like a radio station. Izvezvi ndikada kunoapply ku Broadcasting Authority of Zimbabwe, ndida kutanga yangu radio station, avambofa vakabvuma. Nekuti vanoziva kuti tikangoenda pamhepo hatishandisike sezvavari kuita vamwe. And that's why right now we have so much censorship. We have one television station, which I don't think, by the way, qualifies to be called a radio station, a TV station. ZTV is being run like a tomato and onion vending table at Mbare Musik. They are not professional. We have better video quality than a national TV station, by the way. And when they broadcast their products, it is unpayable from morning to another morning. They can talk about other issues. It's unpayable this, it's unpayable that, it's unpayable this, it's unpayable that. We have a problem. As I conclude this issue, ndoda kukutaurirai nyaya yandane mazuva ishachi nditaura nezvayo inova chirahwe chandisiri kuzodudzira kusvikira ishazo nditi ndichidudzire. Dzimwe nyaya dzichatongwa nehonye nekunhuhwa nekuora munyika muno. Kuchauya kuora, kuchauya honye, kuchauya kuora kweganda remunhu kune vanhu vachaora vachifamba munyika muno. Dzimwe nyaya dzichatongwa nehonye. Honye chaidzo chaidzo dzichatonga dzimwe nyaya. Dzimwe nyaya dzakatadza kutongwa zvakanaka kune dzimwe nzvimbo dzichatongwa nehonye. Asi ini ndakagara pano musi wa20 May 2020 wanhasi nguva izvezvi 16 minutes to 5. Regai nditaure ndichiti kana mazoona kuora, kana mazonzwa kunhuhwa, kana mazoona honye, musazononoka kundidedza. Ngatipindei mumibvunzo yedu. Right, media team, give us the numbers. Kaona honye padhuze newe usazononoka kudedza Chiwenga. Vamwe vachazobvuma kuti Chiwenga munhu waMwari, vakunhuhwa. Kuti vanhu vanopinda mavari vakabata mbunozo vachiti marara sei, nhasimireke muri nani. Saka ini ndiri kuti kana mazoona kuora, kana manzwa kunhuhwa, kana kuti kana mazoona honye, musazononoka kudedza Chiwenga. Kune ganda richatanga kuora munhu akatarisa. Ukazoona zvaitika izvozvo, munazodedzawo Chiwenga. Ini ndakagara pana. Pane dzimwe nyaya dzichatongwa nehonye munyika muno. Yeah, welcome back. I'm hoping that we are going to eventually do this program without having to contend with these incessant network interruptions. But we know we have got a very live adversity in our midst. We have the politicians on the left and the aggrieved religious practitioners on the right who are fighting us to make sure that we don't succeed. But we are not going to be in any way scaling down our operations. The Lord says in Isaiah, when the enemy rises in the magnitude of a flood, the Spirit of the Lord will raise a standard. But what I was saying earlier on about network, I was asking you believers all over the world, especially those that are in Europe or America, if you know a better way of addressing our network disruptions and challenges, do not hesitate to contact us. Send your communication through this number, the same number that you are going to be sending your questions through. Tell us if you know a way of trying to improve our network connectivities. We have got some infrastructure that we installed to improve our network connectivity, but we don't seem to be able to overcome this connectivity challenge. Now, before we go to this disruption, I was talking about the unprofessional conduct of the Star FM radio station here in Zimbabwe. They are now being used by those who are not happy with us to fight us on those people's behalf. And I was saying We are going to engage them. We have already started to do so, but I'm hoping that Mr. Comfort Mbofana, who is the manager of this radio station, is going to heed my call for sanity at his radio station. It is not only unprofessional and illegal for them to inappropriately speak against us as a church on a platform that, number one, we are not invited to participate, to respond to whatever challenges or questions or subjects that they are not happy about or that they feel they need clarity from us. It is illegal. The radio stations are governed by the Broadcasting Authority of Zimbabwe, and we, through our lawyers, we can take them to court for their inappropriate conduct. Star FM and its workers and its presenters, radio presenters, and its management, they seem to be pushing an agenda on behalf of religious leaders or political players to try and discredit us by conducting live radio programs in our absence, which programs are bent on achieving one thing. They are vilifying us, they are demonizing us, and they are de-campaigning us. That is not normal, that is not good, and that is not professional on their part. We are calling upon Mr. Comfort Mbofana to desist from that unprofessional conduct